officially entering my classics era. And I've got the biggest books. These are not my only classics, but these are the classics I've chosen to start with because I love a challenge. Honestly, that was not intentional at all. I just happened to pick the largest books I own to start, but I already did it. I can take it back because now this is about my pride. Look. Yeah, 4. But I did say before that I was gonna start with Emma, so I think we should check this one first. Emma has 441 pages. This is what we're gonna start with. Honestly, that's not bad at all. I was expecting something crazy because she looks thick. She's thick. And the fonts are not that small. So I think she's gonna be fine. She's not that scary. Next, we're going to read The Count of Monte Cristo because she got pretty privileged. I had a lot of other books on my TBR to read right next to Emma, right after Emma, but after I got this one, I had to move them all. She took priority, so we're gonna read her next. And she's got, I know this one I did check before, but I do not remember. She's got 1,065 pages. Okay, so she's a little thicker than Emma, but the words, the fonts are kind of like the same size, so she's not too bad. Then we're going to finish a book that I already started reading because we're gonna finish the Iliad and start the Odyssey. See, these are 2 different books in one. So I thought, like, oh, I'll finish the Iliad and then I'll start the Odyssey right after. I couldn't even finish the Iliad. And it's not because it was bad or long or difficult. I was enjoying it so much. And that is what frustrated me so much. That I was genuinely having the best time of my life. But at the time, I bought a bunch of books at the same time. And I was so excited to get to the others that the only reason why I paused the Iliad was because I was so excited to check out the others. And then I genuinely forgot. So we are going to do her justice and we're gonna finish her. Let's see, where did I'm telling you, I enjoyed it. I did not really annotate it, but I highlighted all the key points to the story because I knew that at some point I would want to come back to it, even if I finished it. Like, this is one of those books that as I was reading it, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be back to this one a lot. So I highlighted the key points of the story, like if I were to go to the pages and I wanted to remember what the story was about or what this section of the story was about, I just needed to see the highlighted pages. It's like basically summarizing the story. So there's a lot of details, there's a lot of names and a lot of information in this book. So I kind of just highlighted the main points. I stopped on page 188. So let's see how much we've got left of the Iliad. The Iliad is 407 pages. Okay, so we're missing almost half of it, and then we have the Odyssey. The Odyssey's got, wait, I gotta do math now. So if it starts in page 415, and the book has 731 pages. 1 second. It's 360 pages. Easy math. We're gonna be reading for a while with this one, not because it's so long, but because it's a lot of information. And the real reason why this is gonna be a challenge for me is because classics and their wording are my enemy. I love to read it, but it takes me a while to be able to look up the words that I do not understand, research the meaning of stuff that I don't really know, and there's a lot of cultural significance in a lot of the text as well. And then lastly, we have Beauty and the Beast and other classic fairy tales. So originally when I picked it up, I did not notice that it said and other classic fairy tales. I thought I was picking up only the Beauty and the Beast. Mind you, I've never read it before. I've never seen it before. I've only seen the Disney movies. So I just genuinely thought all of this was the Beauty and the Beast until I opened it and I saw, oh by the way, wait. I could cry. Until I opened it and I saw the Beauty and the Beast is just 19 pages and I feel a little bit scammed, but at the same time not, because oh my god, there's a lot of stories in this book. It's a lot of short stories, but I think that's gonna make it easier to get through. The whole book is 725 pages, but it's just a bunch of short little stories that make it easier to read. Also look. That crispiness. I love how this book is divided. We have the beauties, so we have a bunch of little stories that are under the beauty category. I do not know why because I haven't read it, but I am assuming because they are the cute princessy kind. And then we have the beasts. So there's another list of fantasy stories under beasts, and by the titles I can see these are more about like monsters and creatures, and also the same kind of fantasy but more around the monsters, and the other ones are more around like the princess and the fairies. So that is really exciting. Oh wait, I need to show this. Woo! Honestly, the Barnes & Noble classics, they hit different. I think I showed this one before. This one is the Count of Monte Cristo, and this one is for Emma. Beautiful. That being said, we're gonna start with Emma, and we're gonna do it as a challenge because I tend to take a little too long with books, because sometimes I genuinely want to read and I feel the desire and I'm ready, but I sit down and overthink about all the things I gotta do in the day and how many ways I want to split this activity, how can I be the most productive during the day, and I end up being the least productive anyone could ever be. What I'm gonna try to do is to set goals for myself, and I'm gonna mark every 50 pages of the book. Every 50 pages I can take a little break, and since there's 441 pages, I'm gonna round it to 450. One day I'm gonna read a little less, and I'm gonna try to do 50 pages 3 times a day. So like 150 every day. It should be fine. That should take me then like 3 days to finish the whole book. And I am going to bring you along the challenge of reading, annotating, and finishing Emma. Are the tabs for every 50 pages, because that is how we're gonna do this challenge. I have 450 pages to read in less than 3 days, so I hope this helps. So we have our main character Emma, who is very beautiful, she's smart, she comes from a good family, just a pretty much privileged girl. But her friend gets married and now she feels lonely because she needs somebody else to spend time with. Now she prides herself on being very good at matchmaking. She wants to make one more match. She promises her dad, just this last one, it won't be for me because I'm not planning to get married ever, but I want other people to get married and I want to be part of it. So that's what she does. And there is this one friend of hers, Mr. Elton, who she decides, okay, this is the one that I'm gonna help get married. Well, later she meets her new friend, Harriet, and she at first just sees her as a project. She's like, okay, we got this girl without a family, she's not from like high society, and I can make her into a lady. I can introduce her to high society, I can get her with Mr. Elton. I am gonna do this. See how this is starting to sound like Clueless? Meanwhile, Mr. Knightley, he's like, what are you doing? He doesn't really like the idea of Emma helping out this girl because he sees what really is. It's like, you're not really helping her out, more like you're just having fun with the girl. Now, here's the thing. One of the things that Emma was planning to do for her friend Harriet as a favor, you know, because she's trying to help her out. She's trying to do this only for her, you know, for her friend. And I quote, she would detach her from her bad acquaintances and introduce her into good society. What are these acquaintances, you ask? Mr. Martin.
A few moments later.
I have our first update. I'm almost at the second mark. Almost at the 100th page. Okay, so Mr. Martin is this guy that Harriet really liked and they had spent some time together, they were getting closer and she did have sort of a crush on him. But Emma was like, what does he work? Where does he live? Is he part of the good society? And she decided that he was not good enough for her friend, which honestly, so she's trying to convince her friend Harriet to forget about him and instead focus on Mr. Elton. But she's still in between the two because even though Harriet is also interested in Mr. Elton, she still hasn't forgotten about Mr. Martin, which really makes Emma very stressed. And I feel like this paragraph explains perfectly how Emma really feels about him. So Harriet asks her, what do you think about him? Like, what do you think about him? And she says, he's very plain, undoubtedly, remarkably plain. But that is nothing compared to his entire want of gentility. I had no right to expect much, and I did not expect much. But I had no idea that he could be so very clownish, so totally without air. I had imagined him, I confess, a degree or two near gentility. Girl. So now she's trying to kind of brainwash Harriet into not thinking about him because she knows that she does like him and she doesn't want to just tell her what to think, you know, because that would be wrong, right? So she's just trying to give her friend advice and pointing out every single little thing this man has ever done wrong. So Emma's like, all right, so I guess, you know, easy math, 1 + 1 = 2, you and Elton equal good match because he's handsome, he's got money, he's good society, you're cute, and you're cute, you know, so perfect, right? Meanwhile, this whole time, Mr. Knightley has been talking about how he does not like this friendship of Emma and Harriet because he thinks they're not really bringing anything positive to each other. He's like, Harriet is kind of dumb and I don't see how she has anything positive to bring to Emma, and Emma has a serious control issue and I don't think they're really friends. I think this is just a little project for her, so I don't think this is gonna end well. Which, you know, he's not wrong, but also like, let them be, you know. Now Emma is back to telling Elton all about Harriet. He's like, you know, she's like, you know, she's really pretty. And then Elton's like, yeah, now that you fixed her. And Emma's like, no, I barely did anything. Like, she was already beautiful. All I did was draw her out a little bit more, you know, make her personality come out a little more. But she was already beautiful. And Elton's like, yeah, whatever. And she says, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna give you a portrait of her. And she's gonna draw it. Emma's gonna draw a portrait of her friend Harriet for Elton because, of course, he's so in love with her that he needs a picture of her. So that's what we're doing. So they go and they sit down. Emma's drawing her. Meanwhile, Elton's like, oh my god, your work is amazing. Like, this drawing is beautiful. This is so beautiful. And then Emma's like, yeah, isn't she beautiful? Isn't she beautiful? Meanwhile, poor Harriet is like blushing, all full tomato over there. This man is being very clear that he's really not interested in his friend, but he's interested in her. But whatever. So at the end of all this, she gives the portrait to him and he leaves it behind. And then Harriet's like, I don't think he liked it because he didn't even take it with him. It's still in the street. And then Emma's like, oh no, that's because he's gonna come pick it up on his horse tomorrow. I bet you that by tomorrow it's gonna be gone. You gotta give her points. Girl is really trying to make this happen. Then, oh my god, I felt so bad for this one. Okay, so then Mr. Martin, he sends Harriet a letter asking her to marry him. And guess what happens? Oh my god, this one was painful. So Emma, she sees the letter and she's like, girl, no. But obviously she doesn't tell her friend that. She's trying to make it obvious without having to say the words. And then Harriet's all excited and she's like, oh my god, what should I do? What should I say? What should I do? And Emma's like, oh, I would never tell you what to do, or I will never tell you what to say. This is completely your decision, you know? And then Harriet's like, okay, but like, I feel like there's something going on here. I feel like I want you to tell me what to do. Like, I need help. And Emma's like, oh, I would never tell you what to say to him. I mean, you know, it's whatever you want, I guess. And then Harriet's like, she just wants the girl to just say what she's thinking. And then Emma's like, I'm sorry, I can't tell you yes or no. And proceeds to give her basically a lot of reasons of why this is maybe not a good idea. So Harriet goes like, okay, I guess then I will say no. And then Emma's like, oh my god, thank god, I did not want to say anything, but now that I know that you agree with me, then I'll let you know that I would have died if you would have said yes to him. Like, I probably would have never ever visited you. Like, can you imagine you living in a farm? I would never go there. Imagine, like, I would be losing a friend. We would both be losing a friend. And then Harriet's like, oh my god, you were not gonna visit me? And then Emma's like, you know, like, this is for the best. This is for you. This is the best for you because you need somebody better. So how about we just write this guy a letter right now? And actually, like, I can send it for you. Like, let's just do it right now, you know? Then next day, Mr. Knightley comes over to Emma all happy and he's talking about his friend Mr. Martin and how this man is finally gonna propose to the girl that he loves and all that. And Emma's like, what? To who? And then Mr. Knightley is like, well, you know, your friend Harriet, like, this man is in love. And Emma's like, well, yeah, she already rejected him. And he's like, how do you know that? And she's like, well, I might have been there, I might have seen the letter, I might have read everything in it. And he's like, did you read it or did you write it? He's like, Emma, this got your name all over it. I know it was you. I know you had to do something with this. And she's like, no, it was all my friend. It was all Harriet. Like, she's actually pretty smart. Like, she thought all of that by herself. She knows that this is the best thing for her. She knows that she needs somebody better because she's not part of high society. And then Mr. Knight, he did not come to play. He's like, this girl has no family, has no last name, has no money, nobody knows her, she's nobody, she's no part of no high society, like, what are you talking about? And Emma's like, she's cute though, and now she's part of high society, and she's only gonna date high society. And then he's like, well, you know what? Stands up, gets ready to leave. If she ever ends up alone, it's because of you. This was her one chance to have somebody take care of her forever, and you ruin it because your expectations are too high and you're creating a monster. Bye. He leaves. He kinda ate. But he's right though, like, I mean, but I will say, I like Emma because even with all of her very big character flaws, it's like in her very flawed little mind, she is genuinely trying to get this girl the best deal she can get, and there's a couple of really like girl boss moments. I'm gonna try to find those quotes. Okay, even though she misapplied this advice, but this is a good one. This is when her friend Harriet is asking her like, what should I say? Yes, should I say no? What should I do? You know, because Emma's been confusing her. That's why she's doubting herself. But I do like Emma's answer. She says, I lay it down as a general rule, Harriet, that if a woman doubts as to whether she should accept a man or not, she certainly ought to refuse him. So now I'm gonna go back to reading, and I'll be back for my next update to see what's going on. But honestly, I'm really loving this story so far. I really feel like, even though obviously this is like a Clueless, well, I keep saying that, but obviously Clueless is inspired of Emma, but you know what I mean. But this is giving Clueless, it's giving Gossip Girl, it's giving a lot of tea being spilled, and I love that. I love this book, I love this story so far, and I am so ready to see what's going on now because it's honestly getting messy, and I love messy. So see you later.
12 seconds later.
I'm back already. That was quick. I'm in page 122 right now, and it happened. What I knew would happen happened. I'm gonna jump into the important parts, you know, the parts that we're really here for. So finally, she knows the truth. After this whole deal with Harriet and Mr. Elton and Emma, she finally heard, somebody told her finally, like, I don't think he likes your friend, I think he likes you. And she was like, what? And they were like, yeah. And so she was like, okay, we gotta confirm this because I do not believe it. I don't know. I think he might be mistaken. So eventually she starts like noticing, and she's really uncomfortable now around him. And she's trying to like pick up on what he's doing. And she realizes like, oh my God, there's something going on. Her friend is sick. She got a cold, so she's not there at the moment. It's just him and her. And now she realizes like, okay, yeah, he's acting a little bit weird. And she keeps trying to bring up Harriet and whatever. Like, she keeps bringing up how Harriet is feeling sick. But he's more concerned about Emma not getting sick by visiting her friend. And he keeps going like, oh, you shouldn't visit your friend, you know, so you don't get this cold that she has. Is it infectious or whatever? And she's like, I mean, I don't know, I'm not worried. But are you not worried about your girl? And he's like, whatever with her, I don't want you to get sick though. And then she's like, okay, now this is weird. So then at one point they're going back home, and they get put in the same chariot together. And that is when it happens. They're alone, just the two of them, and he takes the opportunity, he dares to confess his love for Emma. I'm gonna have to quote the situation because it's a little too crazy and I would not do it justice. So we're gonna have to read it straight from the book. Mr. Elton, the lover of Harriet, was professing himself her lover. She tried to stop him, but vainly. He would go on and say it all. And then she's like so shocked. She's like, this to me? You forget yourself. Any message to Miss Smith I shall be happy to deliver, but no more of this to me, if you please. And he's like, Miss Smith? Message to Miss Smith? It got crazy. They're like arguing, they're fighting, he's drunk, she's angry. He says, everything that I have said or done for many weeks past has been with the sole view of marking my adoration of yourself. And then when she's like, I thought that what you wanted was Harriet, he says, nothing could be farther from my wishes. It got pretty nasty. And that's where I'm at right now. I just had to come and update because that is the part that I've been waiting for, and I had to come and talk about it. Finally, the cat is out of the bag. I know what you're wondering, and yes, it's the next day. I'm going to answer all of your questions. Yes, it's the next day. Yes, I finished Emma. No, I didn't sleep in this dress. Wow. Okay, first of all, I feel like I deserve a round of applause because I read 441 pages in less than 48 hours, and that is a record for me. This is the first time that I've done so much reading in less than 2 days. I finished the whole book in less than 2 days. Like, that's a record. I broke my own personal record. After what I left off, what happened was that she met Frank Churchill, who, you know, at first she was like, oh, you know, he's cute. But little by little, she started realizing, like, I might actually like him. But she's now also preoccupied with the issue with Harriet, because now she's gonna have to tell her about Mr. Elton, and now she feels guilty because it's like, if I had not put that in her head, then we wouldn't be having this issue. But I made her fall in love with him, and now it turns out he was in love with me. So now she's gonna go tell Harriet, and she's stressed about it, but now she's thinking about Frank and all that. And she tells her, she's super sad, she's crying, she's destroyed by this Mr. Elton, and that's like all she can think about now. Poor Harriet is going through it. Meanwhile, Emma's like, you know, I've been doing a lot for the world, so let's do a little bit from me. Now she's all thinking about Frank because she heard that he's coming soon, he's gonna be this new guy coming to town, and she's really excited to meet him. He's heard good things about him, so she's like, you know, it's my turn to have some fun. But when she's telling Mr. Knightley about it, he expresses how much he dislikes this Frank guy because he's like, I don't like how he sounds. The fact that he was supposed to come earlier, but he's coming later because like his dad told him to, or like his aunt or whatever, like a real man would have shown up. A real man would not be making anybody wait. He would have done his duty. So I don't like the guy. And I was like, okay, like, chill. Next thing, Mr. Elton is now getting married to what's her name? Augusta Hawkins. So Miss Hawkins apparently is like this amazing lady that Mr. Elton met, and of course we don't like her because why would we? But let's go to the important thing. Frank shows up. So she first sees him, she's like, oh my god, he's handsome, he's cute, I like it, and she starts getting to know him. Well, so as she starts to get to know him little by little, she realizes he might not be as perfect as she thought he would be. First of all, like, he went to London to get his haircut done because he was very particular about that, and she was like, okay. His personality was not exactly what she expected. He was a little sassy. They were still getting along, like they were still friendly to each other and all that, and she was kind of like trying to convince herself that she liked him, because the thing is that even though he was really sassy, but he was still really nice to her. So he always made sure to be kind, to talk nicely about her. So he was a good person. He was chill. But it was kind of obvious to everybody that they were trying to get to know each other, so everybody kind of knew that there was something going on in between them. Here's the first time that we're gonna start seeing Emma showing feelings for Mr. Knightley, because Mrs. Weston kind of says to her like, oh, you know, I also am sort of a matchmaker myself, and I was thinking that Mr. Knightley would be really good with Jane Fairfax. And Emma was like, ma'am, you are not a matchmaker, only I can do that. He is not going to marry anybody. Don't even put that ideas in his head. That is not happening. She was like, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I just think that it could happen. Like, I can see it. And Emma was like, I don't want to hear it. And never say that again. Never say it to him. She was a little mad. Wonder why? And then for the rest of the night, Emma could only think about this conversation. Every time she saw Mr. Knightley, she was just thinking about that, and she's like, no, this is not happening, he cannot get married. And she's thinking of all the reasons why, you know, because he's taking care of his nephews, he's so busy, he's doing better on his own, he does not need a woman, he's an independent man, he does not need this, he does not need to get married. Mind you, it's because she also doesn't want to get married. So she's like, if he can marry me, because I don't want to marry anybody, so he's not going to marry anybody either, because I'm the only option, and I'm not available, so he's not available. That was her math. Okay, I'm like skipping a little bit of the plot because I am here for the tea. I'm here to talk about the gossip, about the situationships, about what's going on in between these people. So obviously there's like a lot of other things going on, but I'm gonna focus only on that. So a while later, there's a ball coming, and her partner, her dance partner, was gonna be Frank. But then he gets a message. I was gonna say he gets a call. He gets a message from his uncle to go back home because Mrs. Churchill is not doing very well, so he has to go. So Emma's like, oh my god, now I got no ball, no Frank. What am I gonna do? Everything is ruined. Everything is ruined. Now while he's gone, she kind of realizes her own feelings, and she's like, you know, I don't like him as much as I thought I did. And now I'm kind of uncomfortable. I really hope that while he's gone, he kind of stops thinking about me, because now it's awkward. Now she got over him, but last thing she told him like, oh, I want you to come back or whatever. So now she's really hoping like, I hope when he comes back he does not like me that much anymore. So he sent a letter to Mrs. Weston, and she kind of saw what was written in the letter, and she saw her name a bunch of times, and she's like, okay, so he's talking about me in a nice way, so he kind of, at least he still likes me, at least we're still good. But then he saw, and I quote, in the letter he mentions Harriet as Miss Woodhouse's beautiful little friend. That's all she can think about now. She's like, well, you know, he did talk about her, but he mentioned her as my friend. That's all she is to him, my friend. But then she keeps thinking about it. She's like, well, he did say she's beautiful. And then she starts getting in her own head like, oh my god, I think he likes my friend. Meanwhile, this is all happening. Elton's wedding is going on, so Harriet is a mess, you know, like she's invited to the wedding, she's gonna see the guy that she thought liked her getting married, and apparently his wife is not really that nice. At least Emma doesn't like her because she finds her like disrespectful, like she thinks too highly of herself. So we don't like Mrs. Elton either. After that conversation that Emma had with Mrs. Weston about Mr. Knightley and what's her name, Jane Fairfax, she kind of confronts him and she's like, I know you like her. And he's like, what? And she's like, don't lie to me. And he's like, I've never thought of this woman in that way. I do not like her like that. And here's the thing, like she still does not know that she liked him like that, but she was so happy to hear that he said that. Like she's like all giggling and smiling because he said, I do not like that woman. And after that conversation, she now keeps realizing like, okay, I am getting a little too serious about this topic. Like I'm caring a little too much about what this man thinks. And like I'm starting to hate this woman a little too much for no reason. So she starts kind of like realizing what's going on. A couple days later, Frank comes back. And she's now trying to realize like, okay, now let's try to pay attention. Does he still like me? Does he not? And she kind of comes to the conclusion that he does not like her anymore, at least not like that. And she's now like relieved, like, okay, so he's gotten over me. And she's kind of noticing like he looks like he's kind of paying attention to other people. So I'm good. I'm finally free. I don't have to worry about this man liking me and all that. But during the party, during the ball, she's just focused on how Mr. Knightley's not dancing. Like she's not focused on her and her partner. She's thinking about like, oh, poor Mr. Knightley, he's not dancing. Until she sees that Harriet is leading Mr. Knightley to the dance, and she was so happy to see her friend trying to help Mr. Knightley get out of his comfort zone. She was so excited. She was just telling him like, oh look, they're having fun. I'm so happy for them. She was just smiling the whole time, seeing that he's finally having fun and her friend is helping him out of his comfort zone. And before, Mr. Knightley didn't really like Harriet because he thought she was not a really good friend for Emma. But then he comes to Emma, and he's like, you know what? You did good with this girl. She's actually pretty nice, and I approve of your friendship. So Emma cannot be happier. Her friends are getting along, they're being happy, they like each other, they're a friend group now. They're all friends. Everything is perfect, right? Wrong. See, now the drama is really starting, because you know how like Mr. Knightley doesn't really like Frank already. So now Mr. Knightley is on Frank's business because he realizes like, okay, Frank likes Emma, but I've noticed something a little bit weird since he came back. I feel like he's paying a little too much attention to this Jane, and I don't know if Emma has noticed that her boyfriend is kind of cheating on her. So it's my duty as a friend, you know, because that's what every friend would do, you know? It's my duty as a friend to keep track of this man. I'm gonna keep an eye on him, I'm gonna watch. So during the whole party they were at, he was just on this man. He kept looking at him, looking at Jane. He kept trying to pick up on any hints, on any body language, and he's like taking notes. Taking mental notes for Emma because he said, you're not messing with my girl. After he's seen enough, he finally confronts Emma. He's like, let's talk. I saw something weird. I saw your man Frank flirting with Jane at the party. And Emma's like, who cares? And he's like, do you not hear me? Do I have to say it again? Do I have to say it louder? I saw Frank flirting with Jane. And Emma's like, who cares? Not me. So he was so mad that he just left. A couple days later, there's another thing that happens between them because she is having this conversation with a group of friends, and Miss Bates, I think that's how you pronounce her name, Miss Bates, she kind of roasts Miss Bates. She kind of disrespects her a little bit in public, and Mr. Knightley did not like that because he's a proper young man. So he kind of confronts Emma. He's like, Emma, what was that about? Like, that was not really nice to Miss Bates. And she was like, I didn't mean it, I was joking. But in reality, she was kind of embarrassed about that. And Mr. Knightley was like, that was really not cool, and you're not even apologizing, so check yourself. But he leaves. She's kind of sad, like she genuinely cries after that, and that's when she realizes, like, why do I care so much about what this man thinks? Like, she wasn't just upset, like she was upset about being mean to Mrs. Bates, and she apologizes. Like, she didn't mean to, she was just joking, and it got a little out of hand. But she was just genuinely upset about Mr. Knightley being upset about her and like thinking something bad about her. She realized, like, I do care about what this man thinks about me. After that, she would not be okay until she knew that he forgave her. Like, he would try to talk to him, and whenever she felt like he was upset, she was like, oh my god, he's so mad at me, like, to fix this. So eventually he finally kind of like shows her, like, it's fine, we're good, and she gets so happy. She's like realizing, like, okay, I'm feeling a lot of things whenever this man reacts to me. I feel a lot of things when he's mad at me. I feel a lot of things when he's happy. What's going on? So Harriet had told Emma that she was in love. She was like talking all about this man and how much she feels for him and how she's in love with him. And she remembered, like, oh my god, okay, so Frank mentioned her on his letter, and then at the party, even though he was hanging out with everybody, I saw him like looking at Harriet. He's like, oh my god, Harriet and Frank are in love. What happens next is that somebody comes and tells Emma, like, I got bad news for you. And she's like, what? Who died? And they're like, no, Frank got engaged to Miss Fairfax. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that name wrong. And then she's like, oh my god, Harriet, my friend. So now she's stressed, like, oh my god, this is the second man that's done her wrong. Like, first Mr. Elton, now Frank. She's like, oh my god, how am I gonna tell Harriet? She's gonna be destroyed. She literally just told me how much she loves this man. So she runs to Harriet and she's like, okay, I'm gonna just rip the band-aid and I'm gonna let you know, Harriet, your man is getting married. Frank is engaged to Miss Fairfax. And Harriet's like, why would you think I care? And she's like, because you just told me that you were in love. And she's like, yeah, but not with him. And she's like, wait, I know that you're not talking about Mr. Knightley. She was like, who else would I be talking about? No, Harriet, So Emma is like trying to be like, okay, like, her world is shaking right now. And she's like, okay, I'm just gonna ask you real quick. Do you know if he has feelings for you? Harriet is like super confident. She's like, yeah, he does. And she's like, okay, that was a quick answer. How do you know this? And she's like, I know he does. And that's when Emma realized, I don't want him to get married because I'm the only one he could ever be married to. I'm the only one allowed to marry this man. He's mine. She's kind of mentioning to her, like, oh, what about Mr. Martin, you know, the man he wanted to marry, like, at the beginning of the story? And she's like, Miss Martin? The farmer? I could never. And that's when she realized she created a monster. See, now after all that happened, she realized how much she was actually in love with Mr. Knightley. So when he came back from London, she was like, I don't even know how to act in front of him anymore. Like, we were friends for so long. We were always, you know, like, bickering with each other, we're always roasting each other. Now she's like trying to talk to him and she can't even talk to him. She's like, so what's new? And he's like, not much. And she's like, you know, any weddings you heard of? And he's like, what? So now she's all awkward because she now is aware of her feelings. She just wants to clear the air, and she tells Mr. Knightley, like, I just want to tell you real quick, I'm not in love with Frank, and I never was. I don't want that man. And he was like, oh, really? And he's talking about how lucky he is, that he found this woman, and that he has this new life coming for him and all that. And I was like, you sound kind of jealous. And he's like, I am jealous. And she's like, and he's like, do you not see why I'm jealous though? He's like, I know you know why. I'm not gonna say it because I know that you know what I'm talking about. She's saying to him, you know what, you can always tell me anything. Like, as a friend, you can always come to me. And he's like, as a friend, tell me then, have I no chance of ever succeeding? And then he finally confesses. He says, I cannot make speeches, Emma. If I loved you less, I might be able to talk about it more, but you know what I am. God knows I have been a very indifferent lover, but you understand me. Yes, you see, you understand my feelings, and will return them if you can. Now here is where I have a problem, okay? Because after all of this happened, I loved the story, the gossip, the tea, the drama, everything. But the ending, I was a little disappointed. Because you're gonna tell me that after this man finally confessed, this is not gonna be the main point of the story at the end? After this confession, she kind of talks about how like she's still not sure about being married because she does not want to leave her father behind, and she still thinks that he has a lot of things to attend to with his family, to be married. And after she's finally convinced, you know, maybe we can do it, like, you know, he's ready to be married, she's ready to be married, let's do it. It's like we don't really focus too much about their relationship. Like, it's cool how we have a very slow burn, they become lovers very, very slowly, but it's like after they finally admit to each other they like each other, it's like, okay, we just got that out of the way, so let's continue with the story. I'm like, what? Like, I was waiting for so long for this moment, and we're just gonna dismiss it like that? Like, you already know I like you, so let's just get married. That's kind of what it was. That made me very sad. That made me very sad. Because I was so excited about seeing like how they were gonna go, like, you know, this banter they have between each other, but now in a relationship. I thought that was gonna be so cute and whatever, and we're gonna still have their fun. Okay, we're getting married. The end. So we didn't get a kiss. I don't like that. Can you believe that after all of that, after those 450 pages that I read in 48 hours, I didn't get a kiss? But overall, I loved the story because even though Emma was not the best friend ever, I did like that the story focused a little bit more on like that female friendship aspect. Like, we saw more about the interaction between Emma and Harriet and all the other girls, and like, you know, the drama. I like that she was not all about falling in love. She was a matchmaker, but she was very clear about like, I don't want to get married. And even at the end, even when you did want her to be a little bit romantic, you know, she still was very like, I'll shake your hand at the wedding, but then expect a kiss. But overall, that's my verdict. Only reason because the ending disappointed me a little too much. It was not bad, it's just, it was not like, after all of this that we've been waiting for, like this confession that you knew was coming, the confession was like so casual. Like, they didn't even like fully like talk about it either. They said like, you know, I do love you, and immediately we're already talking about like the issues of like, oh, but when I get married and when I move out, like what's gonna, it's like, wait, but first be a little happy about the confession first. Like, let's celebrate first and then we worry about those issues. So that was a little bit like not that exciting, but overall I liked it. And Clueless happens to be one of my favorite chick flicks, so when I started reading and I realized that connection, I immediately knew that I was gonna love this book. This is my first classic in, except for the half of the Iliad that I already read before, I'm pretty sure this is my first classic in English. This is the at least the one I remember. I don't remember if I read anything before. I don't remember my past life. I think one point in high school I read a couple, but I'm not gonna count any of that because let's be honest, I was not paying attention. My life is starting over right now. I may have forgotten to do an outro, so I just want to say before I go that I'm still in my reading the classics week, so this one's next. Starting today, now that I finish Emma, starting today, we're gonna start with the Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know if I'm ready. No, I know I'm not ready, but we're gonna do it, and I'm hoping. My goal is a little more ambitious than it was with Emma because this book, and it's 1065 pages, I'm planning to read in 1 week. If my math does not fail me, I have to read 150 pages every day, which is not insane, except for the fact that I can read 150 pages in a day. I don't know if I can read 150 pages every day for a continuous week. I'm going to expand my vocabulary. I am going to be the most insufferable person in the world, and we're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna enjoy the process, and I am going to be back later.